My mother complained to me about my father for years. It ruined my relationship with him.
Put all the family burden on OP.
That's what you do. Put it on the child. I always describe my relationship with my dad to others as strained. Since I was around 10, we have constantly fought. I thought for years that my dad misheard me or misrepresented how I spoke with him. By the way, this comes from Lovable Nerd. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, many times we would have conversations where he wouldn't like my tone, especially if I was flippant, and he would tell me off for it. I would immediately remove myself from the conversation, but the grudge remained. Over time, this led to us not speaking much or relating to one another at all. For example, my dad has always been a workaholic. Many of our fights happened in the evenings when he would come home from work only to keep working. When I would poke him about being on the computer and ask him to come to dinner, he would get upset and tell me bluntly to leave him alone. I would ask him why he came home from work just to keep working. He would get more upset by that and yell at me. I'd walk away. When I started high school, my mom and I became very close. She was a stay-at-home mom for my brother, 30 male, and me. We spent a lot of afternoons together after school, running errands, watching shows, and cooking together. Over time, it was easy to talk to my mom. She loved to sit and listen to me study for history tests, reciting facts and asking questions. She engaged with me about my day-to-day at school with genuine interest. She also gave me the space to write and work. We've remained close, but things changed when I went away to college. I struggled with anxiety, and she was the only one who knew. We checked in with one another every day via text. She supported me and helped me through a horrible breakup. I have her to thank for sticking with my degree when I desperately wanted to drop out. She encouraged me even when I decided to attend university 7 hours away from home. She remained supportive when I pursued an MA and ultimately my PhD. My dad struggled with these decisions. As someone in business, he doesn't see the value or necessity of postgraduate degrees. He has heckled me for it, been confrontational about it, and told me off for being the smart one. He has told me to my face that he doesn't know why anyone would pay me to do what I do. Last year, my mom was diagnosed with cervical cancer. I took the summer off to help her with treatments, primarily keeping her company and cooking for my parents while I stayed with them. She became very dependent on me. When she finished treatment and I went back to work and my PhD, she developed really bad anxiety. She began complaining that my dad was not understanding or helpful more frequently. Every conversation we had, she would vocalize how frustrated she was with him. Despite my pushing her to seek counseling and enjoy the break in treatment, she barely left the house. She did not go back to work. She traveled to see her family and had a horrible time, so she was turned off from traveling altogether. This past December, she received news that her cancer had likely spread to her surrounding lymph nodes. In April, she needed emergency surgery. I rushed home because her life was in danger, and I have stayed with them since. My mom was hospitalized for 35 days. During that time, I realized that she was pushing my dad further away. He would try to hold her hand and pet her in a soothing way, but she would slap his hand away while being more than happy to hold mine. She complained about almost everything my dad did, the way he spoke, the way he drove, the way he engaged with her. As I worked through my feelings with my own therapist, I realized that my mom has always done this. I have been a mediator between my parents for almost a decade at least. When I was younger and my mom was frustrated that my dad was still working at home after a long day at the office, I was the one who confronted him about it. My dad also got frustrated when my mom went back to work while I was in college, and he pressed her to leave her job. She told me how upset she was by this, and I was the one who confronted him about it. Now, with my mom's diagnosis, I have had to confront my dad about a number of things, and it's just made things more fraught between us. I genuinely feel like my dad has come to resent the friendship I have with mom, and he has confirmed this. My mom pushed herself to take me out to lunch for my birthday about a week after an aggressive chemo treatment. Later that night, when my dad got home from work, he told me he was jealous, but secretly happy that the lunch was cut short so that hopefully the three of us could do something on the weekend together.
Wow.
Oh, that's so sad to hear from like your parent being like, I just want to spend time with you guys, because like watching a partner kind of slowly, get worse and worse.
Right.
I will be leaving my parents' house in roughly a week to go back to work. I'm a PhD student and have teaching and program requirements that require me to return to school, 8 hours away. I most likely won't be back until December for the holidays. I have been at my parents' since April when my mom was hospitalized. And when I told my mom that I was leaving roughly a month ago, she became extremely emotional. Any mention that I'm leaving, example discussions of my travel plans or going back to work, has her in tears. She's finally seeing a counselor who is helping her work through her anxiety, but I feel like it's not enough. She has no close friends, and we have no close family where they currently live for her to lean on. I feel like I am stranding her with my father and brother, who just don't have a good relationship with her right now. I also know that I absolutely need to get out of this situation, and that she will be okay when I go. I've left briefly for a few days before and 2 weeks for a work thing. My dad and brother stepped up. It is destroying me to be the go-between for my parents, and worse yet, I feel like I am contributing to their communication problems and adding to the growing distance between them. You are not. This is not your fault. Your parents have their own relationship, and they're kind of putting you in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Absolutely.
I have been supportive of them speaking frankly to one another about their problems. I have even found them resources to seek counseling together and separately through the cancer clinic, so all of their appointments are free. I have encouraged my mom to be open to other people helping her through treatment, especially because I feel so much pressure as a solo caregiver to her. I also feel incredibly resentful that I'm in this position, which only contributes to my own anxiety. How do I gracefully extricate myself from this relationship in the long run? How do I even begin to rebuild a relationship with my dad? My parents have been married for 27 years. There has been no discussion of separation. My mom is 100% dependent on my dad, and he truly loves her with all of his heart. They know they have some work to do on their marriage, but her illness has made pre-existing problems 100 times worse. We're all flustered. And there are some comments and an update, but
Wow.
What are your thoughts?
That's just so much burden that OP is
Yeah.
putting on herself, and that the parents
Has
are
been
putting on
herself
her.
for, years.
Yeah. I mean, probably
Her whole
because
life,
the
yeah.
parents have done that
Yeah.
too. That's just not something that you do with your kid.
No.
Like you are there for your kid, but your kid isn't supposed to be there for you.
Your
you
kid
know?
is not your therapist. You can't
Yeah.
go to them to talk about your problems with your partner.
Right.
You should be, you want them to be as neutral about issues with you guys as possible.
Yeah.
But I think that you can just have talks with your dad and be like, hey, I feel like, I want to have a relationship with you. And I know
Right.
that's going to be hard because we've had our differences, but
Right.
that is
It's
something
possible.
important to me. Comments. Comment 1 says, your post is extremely similar to the situation I have had with my parents, minus the cancer. If I'm not misreading things, you're codependent with your mom. That needs to stop. You live 8 hours away. That's a good first step. Stop talking to your mom every day. Do it every other day, every third day. Build up to calling once or twice a week. Talk to her about little things and only talk to her about big, important decisions after you've already decided on what you're going to do. Go into therapy specifically to deal with your relationship with your parents. You will need therapy to really start understanding how everything is working out. There is a certain level of objectivity required that is extremely difficult to achieve on your own. As for rebuilding things with your dad, it sounds like it will be up to you. Is there anything he enjoys doing? Hiking, kayaking, football? Suggest doing it with him. Sit him down and straight up say, we have never had a good relationship and I would like to change that. If he isn't interested, let it go. Best of luck. And there is an update. The only thing I disagree with about that comment is how to go about kind of distancing yourself with your mom, because your mom has cervical cancer.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that you spend a lot of time with her. I don't think that calling once a week or once every 2 weeks, I wouldn't want to do that if my parent was, had a very deadly disease.
Yeah, that really does change things. Because I was going to say, even without that aspect, I think only talking to her about little things and not really big decisions is well, I feel like you should still be able to talk to your mom about big decisions.
I talk to my mom, I talk to my parents almost every day.
Yeah.
And I think that parents should be, I understand that this is different, but they should be someone that you feel comfortable talking to about big things in your life, because that's why they're a good parent is there to guide you through, because they've gone through this life,
I could see if the mom is a little dependent on OP, if you wanted to kind of change that a little bit,
Yeah.
then I could see, like, you know, maybe not
Having a conversation
talking
with
every day, maybe like every other day, something like that. But
Yeah.
even then, I think the main problem with their relationship is that the mom goes to OP with
yes.
her emotional problems.
I think that's the issue here. I don't think that OP is overly, you know,
Yeah.
dependent. I think the
Exactly.
mom clearly has like anxiety problems. So
Yeah.
it may mean that you can't talk to her every day, but I do think the circumstances are a little more complicated than this commenter is.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
making out to be. But there's an update. As scheduled, I returned to my apartment and my job at the start of August. The last week with my parents was probably one of the worst ones I've had in a while.
Oh no.
My mom's anxiety related to her cancer and my impending departure had her hyper emotional and extremely sensitive. She unloaded her stresses, fears, and deep unhappiness onto me every day, along with a near constant barrage of complaints about my dad. See, that's when maybe you would want to distance yourself and be like, Mom, no.
Exactly.
Nowhere in these conversations was there a discussion of how I felt or how what she was saying made me feel. On my previous post, everyone commented that my mom and I were codependent. We're right. The moment I started to put some distance between us, things grew even more difficult. In the last few days before I left, I scheduled a bunch of dinners with friends to get out of the house. 2 days before I left, I spent longer than expected out with a friend catching up. My brother picked me up late and we got back to the house and it was complete chaos. I hadn't checked my phone while we were driving, and it turns out that my mom had gotten confused about dinner. She expected me to be home by 6, at which point I would cook and everything would be fine. Before leaving, I had let her know that there was dinner in the fridge, and if I was late or she was hungry before I got home, all she had to do was heat it up in the microwave. Well, she forgot. And when my dad walked in after a day at work, he freaked out that she was needy and hungry, and the means to make dinner were not immediately available. We walked in the door close to 9 p.m. and he was just heating up the leftovers. He was short with me and I was exasperated. In the midst of all that, my brother's dog jumped on my mom's lap, landing on a tender spot from her cancer treatments. She started wailing uncontrollably and my dad lost it. He slammed his work bag in the counter, looking ready to unalive something. Meanwhile, my mom screamed at my dad for being so upset. My brother scooped up his dog and we retreated to the yard for a bit while things cooled down. The next day, I took my driver's license road test and failed because I got too nervous. The day after that, I left as planned. My dad apologized for what happened when we drove down. I shrugged it off, focused on getting beyond the chaos. I now have been back in my apartment for a month, seeing my therapist regularly and working pretty effectively. They confirmed the problem is codependency, along with the sense that I had been more of a partner to my mom than my father in the last decade, which put me in the position of being a mediator between them and her advocate at the expense of a good relationship with other people. It became more evident to me that my mom uses me to vent, discuss major life choices, and be a close friend has gone far beyond a regular mother-daughter relationship. More so, I was just done with it. So maybe that commenter was way more on the money than...
Yeah.
I put the brakes on daily phone calls. I limited our messages. It hurt a lot to do it, but I realized I didn't need to fill her in on every detail of my day every day. Curbing the impulse was hard, and while it helped, I continued to feel guilty about it. I've struggled to understand when I should message her and about what. In the middle of August, we talked on the phone for the first time in 3 weeks, and she vented for 45 minutes about my dad again.
Oh, gosh.
I did everything I could to redirect her to other topics, to focus on fun things she had seen or done, but it just continued until I made an excuse to end the call. It was so draining to hear it, and while I tried to defend my dad for the first time, I didn't succeed. I also kept telling her over and over to tell him her complaints about herself, but she didn't listen to me. So our messages stopped again, to the point of going a few days with only a good morning text. Then I realized I wasn't getting any messages about her cancer appointments at all. Last week, I figured we had another week until she would get the results of a series of scans assessing her treatment's progress. Then my dad called me into a family conference call for the results on Tuesday, and I felt like I got hit by a truck. I had no idea her follow-up appointment was that day, and the news hit me doubly hard. The results were mixed, there was no new spread, and all but one of her tumors had shrunk. Problem is, the main tumor is the one that didn't shrink, and it currently poses the greatest problems. Bigger problem is that the main tumor actually grew a bit, so they stopped her current treatment protocol to reassess. My mom was again extremely emotional on the phone, which I get, but in some ways she was hyper-focused on the one bit of bad news. She spoke about the appointment like her doctors had told her there was nothing more they could do, which wasn't true. They were merely pausing to reevaluate her course of treatment. Our family is certainly in a different position than we were 8 months ago when the reoccurrence was evident. We are now facing some difficult conversations about the benefits of treatments versus the side effects, but there are many options. Last week, I felt lost after that conversation. I felt railroaded that I hadn't been told the appointment was even coming, and the news hit me doubly hard. It became evident that I needed to find a better way to communicate that was effective and to figure out some tools to keep my mom's complaints at bay. Yes. Which is, I think, kind of what I was thinking earlier, just to pause it really quick, because I think we've learned that commenter was pretty right on, the codependency and needing to cut back. But also I think that the fact that this cancer diagnosis is still a thing means that you can't completely do that, unfortunately.
Right. It really does complicate things a lot.
Yeah, because if this was a normal situation where you were codependent on your mom, and your mom was completely healthy, you probably could just cut back. Yeah. And then slowly that relationship may become more healthy. But here, it's so much more complex because she is obviously putting a lot of emotional weight on you, but also, to be fair to her, she's going through just something unimaginable.
Yeah.
Of being scared that you might pass away. I started with small messages to my brother and my dad, and even a few phone calls with my sister-in-law. They in turn have kept me in the loop with a few messages a day. My messages with my mom stop when she turns negative. I think that, And I continue to start with positive discussions about things she's seen or done that she enjoyed. Fast forward to today, a week later from my family conference call, I just got off the phone with my dad after an hour-long discussion. For the first time in my life, my dad opened up to me about his fears, about how much he's struggling, but most of all, about how flustered he is by the thought that he's ruined our relationship beyond repair with his workaholism. Turns out my brother and he have been talking, and my brother has brought to his attention some of the issues I have with him. He confessed that he didn't immediately realize how hurtful his actions have been towards me, but he wants to work on this. I told him I was figuring a lot out, but that I knew I wanted to fix our lack of relationship too. He continues to see a counselor I had referred to him through the cancer clinic, and it's insane how much progress he's made in a few weeks on his biggest flaw. Just being aware that what he says and does can be hurtful, especially when he comes home from work pent up with frustration and takes it out on us. My dad ended our call by saying that he was going to ask his boss for a leave of absence at work to investigate the option. Wow. Just huge change. He's not sure how it would work financially just yet, but this is an opening I never would have conceived of just a month ago. My dad's job has always been his life. Things with my mom remain difficult. I feel stuck because of her cancer. There is, in some ways, no time to waste. But I also need space, and I haven't found the best way to externalize our phone calls or handle them when they come in a way that won't involve me just hanging up. But there is a way forward. In slowly refocusing what we talk about and how, as well as how I deal with her complaints about my dad. And by the way, we hope that you never have complaints about how many full episodes we have with stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app and search up OK Storytime. But there is a little bit left. My final thought, and I would love to hear yours, is, or one of them at least, is for OP to be there for her mom in an effective way. She needs to take care of her mental health. And so I think it's pretty smart to know when she needs to take a break and a breather. That's a good point. And realize, you don't have to feel guilty about needing that time and space for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a very smart improvement to not kind of respond to the negativity stuff.
Still text her and still message her and talk.
Yeah, but just try to kind of veer it away from that stuff. And that's great that the dad is feeling this way, because if OP wanted to ask if this was I forget if it's the comments or OP that said that an option is to talk to the dad about what kind of things you guys can do together, or how to repair your relationship. It's it seems like the dad wants to, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think taking leave of absence, because if he is noticing how his relationship with OP has been affected by his workaholism, maybe he'll think the same way with his wife.
Yeah.
And then things can just overall improve. That's the hope.
And it seems like the dad's therapy is working already. So
that's great.
Yeah. But of course, we don't have all the answers. So, take this one day at a time and get therapy. But there is a little bit more. Overall, I just wanted to thank everyone here for assessing my rant of a post the first time and for giving me names for issues I've come to recognize plague my life. Today, for the first time, I see a way forward. This is the kind of opening I want to seize, even though there's a lot of crap coming with my mom's cancer and whatever her next course of treatment brings. Thank you.
Wow.
That's a tough story.
That's a complicated situation.
So complicated.
Wow.
Which cancer, unfortunately, usually is.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's affected by that, love and hearts and, for you. Because it is really hard for everyone involved.
Yes.
But
sounds like they're working on it.
yes.
Putting in the work. Because they, at the end of the day, they do care about each other.
Absolutely.
So
clearly.